there is a huge amount of new data mine information from the upcoming 10.1.7 patch that could significantly change WoW lore. We have discovered a bunch of info from the new Forsaken Heritage questline, from the very likely new fight against the Scarlet Crusade to the Dreadlords returning that may be seeking to rebuild the Burning Legion. Even more interestingly, there are hints of actual Sylvanas returning, which could be huge and also worrisome at the same time. But the most interesting info is that Lordaeron seems like it is literally going to be rebuilt, but not as we thought, not as a new human kingdom. It is now likely that the Forsaken, as they lost the Banshee Queen, are looking to rebrand themselves as new undead Lordaeron with a brand new emblem and a brand new kingdom. So let's cover every single data mine detail from the new patch and let's figure out what exactly is even going on. While the Forsaken has gone through a lot, your private info has also gone through a lot, as there are a lot of people with malicious intent, but you can stop that right now with this video sponsor, Aura. I've had experience with people making fake accounts with my info, and it is not fun. However, Aura is not just another run-of-the-mill privacy protection service, it is your shield against the unseen forces that seek to exploit your personal information. It handles the removal of your private info, you got a VPN, a password manager, amongst other features, all super easy to set up. Let Aura do the hard work keeping you safe so that your private data remains private. Best of all, you can try Aura completely free for 2 weeks with my link in the description or the QR code on the screen, so you can let people profit off your info, or you can go to aura.com/DoransMovies and start your free trial today. Let's start off immediately and giving context, because a lot of things have been happening behind the scenes, and we're also getting a lot of follow-ups on some of the previous hints that we've seen, such as some of the shields all the way back from Shadowlands and even the Scarlet Crusade, and a bunch of these little things that we've been data mining non-stop. Right now, it really seems like all the pieces of the puzzle are kind of falling into place. So, a Forsaken Heritage questline is coming in 10.1.7, and it seems like it is going to be encrypted until release, at least the complete storyline. We might be able to discover something, such as a bunch of hints that I will cover in this video, but the final, like what is actually going to be happening, will be revealed once the patch is out. By all the hints at the moment, this questline seems to be like the finale of that ending questline in Shadowlands when the Forsaken had reclaimed Undercity and had gotten rid of the Plague. This is more of a Forsaken end chapter dealing with loose ends and start anew, and honestly, this makes complete sense if you have understanding of the Forsaken lore. In the past, all races pretty much had a change of leadership. I mean, it's not really that big of a deal, but for the Forsaken, this was one of the most drastic changes that completely altered their identity. Sylvanas wasn't just a leader, she was like the mother to the undead. They followed her blindly, she was the center of their culture. This is exactly why every Forsaken you talk to mentions her in a conversation, why you could find statues of her, images, and since that change, they didn't really know what they were. They weren't the citizens of Lordaeron that most of them were back in life. They weren't fighting the Lich King, they weren't following the Banshee Queen. Now they have a council of a bunch of newer undead, and they need to start anew, and that is pretty much exactly what is happening in 10.1.7. However, it gets a lot more interesting as we have a ton of new hints. The official description of the Heritage questline says this: the old enemy has resurfaced and threatens the recently reclaimed ruins of Lordaeron, forcing the Desolate Council and you to defend the Forsaken home. Now, this could of course go multiple ways, as while the Forsaken went through a lot of chaos, they always had one thing, and that is enemies, and a lot of old enemies, and at the moment it could be multiple ones, so it is a little bit hard to guess precisely. First of all, the Scourge was their main enemy, the main old enemy, and we know it's not that because they were defeated. Then they had the Dreadlords that essentially controlled them, and it was only after defeating them that Sylvanas created a Forsaken, and this is actually super relevant, as two very powerful Dreadlords are appearing in 10.1.7 as well. We have data mined a whole bunch of info. One is a lord from the planet of Zorod, the other is just an overall powerful guy. They're both enemies. We've data mined Legion minions and even some hidden plans on how the rebuilding of the Burning Legion as an army could potentially be a thing. Furthermore, Denatrius is always relevant. He was left with a cliffhanger at the end of Shadowlands, so he could be swooping in with these Dreadlords as well, as if he has experience with anything, it is the undead. However, However, personally, I don't feel like they're going to throw in the big players such as the Natalius and the Dreadlords in this little Heritage questline, so we have two more super relevant things, that is the Scarlet Crusade and Sylvanas, and both have just been data mined and are incredibly relevant at the moment. So we have actually data mined a spell that very likely signifies a return of Sylvanas in some form. Some see this as a hologram or a memory, some believe Sylvanas is actually returning, which could be a huge hint for what could be happening. Not only would we learn what she has been doing, but even Anduin could possibly return, but personally, I think it is a little bit too early for Sylvanas to return at this point, like actually fully back from the Maw. On the other hand, some people have been speculating that Sylvanas loyalists may rise once again, we could get a civil war, and that they're unhappy with the way the council has been leading these past few years. While this could potentially be cool, personally I don't really see it happening. I mean, Sylvanas, as far as we know, has admitted her sins. She isn't really looking to return back to leading the Forsaken. Plus, once again, with how much we can see her in Shadowlands, I really doubt anyone wants to see her again, and that this would be a wise decision. On the other hand, the most likely scenario is that the Scarlet Crusade is actually returning and is going on the offensive. Well, we know a part of the new data mine hints has to do with the Hallow's End. We have hints of the revamped Scarlet Monastery, Satan Tetrahan, their founder. Even more interestingly, it was confirmed that the Onslaught, the Scarlet Onslaught in Northrend, is surprisingly large in numbers for some reason. This was confirmed a few years back. They were also left on a cliffhanger. We know they plan to infiltrate the Alliance. They really didn't like Anduin, who is now gone, and they also don't like Kalia, and they say they have an heir to the actual throne of Lordaeron. So we could see one last attempt of the Scarlet Crusade trying to retake Lordaeron if this is the case, which would deny the theory that we could see this faction possibly reconciled or potentially returning back to the Alliance. However, all of this is not even the most interesting hint, as we have not only data mined some armors, which is of course natural for a Heritage questline, but we have data mined new Forsaken Guards, and guess what? They're wielding actual Lordaeron emblem shields. We believe these were for the Scarlet Crusade for the longest time, but it looks like the actual Forsaken Guards are wielding it, which is honestly a huge hint for a new storyline. My guess is that since they lost their purpose of fighting the Lich King, which has long been accomplished, they no longer have Sylvanas as their spirit animal. They're now turning to their old heritage, and that is Lordaeron, and they're building a new, or should I say an old identity. As we know, most Forsaken used to be Lordaeron citizens in life. They still live in the ruins of Lordaeron. So my guess is that Blizzard is turning away from having the Forsaken be a bunch of undead rogues, these sort of like grey evil beings that took over the ruins of a fallen human kingdom, to being their legitimate descendants, as in having a new undead Lordaeron. This would 100% makes sense why the Scarlet Crusade would be the old enemy. Scarlet Crusade sees itself as the only rightful heir to Lordaeron, and it is their goal to re-establish the kingdom. So once the undead defeat them, there is really no one left to claim that Lordaeron is theirs. This could entail an actual rebuilding of Lordaeron and an actual rebranding of Lordaeron as a kingdom. We could see this new red color instead of the purple one, and we could also see it everywhere in Undercity. It could also potentially signal a revamp of Lordaeron as well. Maybe the Forsaken are going to stop living in the sewer system of the old city, as let's be real, that signifies that they aren't exactly the rightful heirs, and instead they might rebuild a city above the ground, an actual capital city of Lordaeron, which I kinda say would definitely be something that literally no one actually saw coming. We've all been talking about the new Lordaeron, but no one saw Lordaeron being rebuilt by the undead. An even more interesting hint that isn't really related to this, but we could potentially get a hint for Gilneas in this new Heritage questline as well. We know back at the end of Shadowlands, Kalia said she plans to pull out the troops out of Gilneas, which she said in a message to Gian Greymane. As this Heritage questline seems to be a continuation of the one that happened at the end of Shadowlands, we could potentially see a follow-up message to this. I'm 100% certain we aren't getting rebuilt Gilneas in 10.1.7. I mean, it is a minor patch, but we could get a new message, a new quest item that is going to set the ground for the actual revamp happening to this lost human kingdom. Thank you for watching. Check out the actual Burning Legion rebuilding by clicking on the screen, and check out the Nodes Academy for videos in real world history. See you next time.